From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Memories made on crop tour.
I'm on crop tour. Of course, I fall into every field.
As scouts wrap up in the East.
We're here in Iowa for day 4 of the Pro Farmer Crop Tour, and the question is Iowa's corn crop actually better than Illinois'? We're hitting the fields to find out.
And the West.
I'm Michelle Rook on the Western League of the Pro Farmer Crop Tour here in southern Minnesota, where crop scouts are trying to determine the impact early rains and flooding had on overall yield.
The 2024 Pro Farmer Crop Tour reaches its destination right now on AgDay.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer. Great performance in the field makes Pioneer brand corn #1 in America. For a winning season, it's Pioneer brand corn. Your best year starts here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Happening later today, Pro Farmer will release its national corn and soybean crop estimates. Those numbers will take into account information gathered during the 2024 Pro Farmer Crop Tour. But it will also take into account other factors, such as weather, crop maturity, historical differences from other tour information, along with what USDA has forecast and areas outside of the tour. Now, Pro Farmer leaders crunching the numbers right now, looking for those to be released this afternoon at 1:30 Central Time over at agweb.com. We'll also share them on AgDay's social media sites. Those numbers being released on the heels of Pro Farmer wrapping up day 4 of the crop tour. Now, Western Scouts finishing up their survey of Iowa en route to Rochester, Minnesota. And as AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us, Michelle, Scouts saw just about everything in Minnesota.
Despite heavy rains and flooding here in southern Minnesota to start off the growing season, USDA is projecting corn yields for the state to be static with last year at 185 bushels per acre and a slight uptick in soybean yield to 49 BPA. But how does that compare to what Pro Farmer crop scouts are finding out here on the tour?
Field after field in southern Minnesota shows the scars from record-setting rains and flooding right after Father's Day.
In the county around here, from 19 to 30 inches of rain before the 1st of July.
Some farmers lost entire fields and most have holes within fields and yellow corn.
So there's some drown out spots where guys came back in and either planted just a cover crop or put in some early beans just to fill the hole essentially.
Telstra had just 12 inches of rain, but is still concerned about nitrogen loss on corn.
We just don't know how stuff's going to finish out with the leaching of our products out in the field.
To make things worse, Willer's crops are now drying out.
Now we're dealing with tip-back corn, like yay.
And that's not because of the heat.
And that's because of the drought on top of all that rain, yes.
That's also meant flat bean pods, and so yield potential on both crops may fall below his APH.
Looking like 175, 80, which we should have 2 1/4. And soybeans, I don't know. If we're lucky to get 50, and they should be 60 plus.
So achieving USDA's projected yields may be difficult, but what did crop scouts find in the fields on corn?
I mean, the ears are definitely smaller. This is probably one of the best ears we've seen here. This stop was in the 160s. Our first stop was 110, and then, it's been in between there.
And what about beans?
The first couple stops were a little bit low on the pod counts. You could tell that they were planted late. They'd had a lot of water. The plants were really thin, not a lot of pods, a lot of tubing pods, really flat yet. So just kind of immature and behind.
But the final results won't be known until harvest. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Now in the East, scouts headed from Iowa City also ending up in Rochester, Minnesota. Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan wrapping up things for us in the East.
Last year on day 4 of crop tour here in the East, scouts were met with extremely high heat and the question of if Iowa's corn crop was drying down or dying down in the field. This year, they are lush green plants. And now the question is Iowa's corn crop actually better than Illinois? As scouts hit the road for the final day of crop tour, they saw some issues from the wet weather this spring.
There's some tip back on them though.
But for the most part,
They're good kernel count.
they were finding several fields of dreams in the East.
And usually you go through Iowa, especially, you'll have spots that just won't be the same. for whatever reason, some drought stress or whatnot, and this year it's just very consistent.
The theme for central, eastern, and southern Iowa this year is consistent corn yields.
We've been as high as 260, so the range is pretty consistently over 200 on this crop.
Much of that due to good grain length and more kernels around than past years.
I've seen a lot of 18s and a lot of 20s.
Zach Egglesdahl farms around Mason City, Iowa, an area of northern Iowa that was too wet this spring.
Last year we had a very good crop, a record crop in most spots. And this year we won't be there. We'll be off a solid probably 10 to 15%.
But in eastern and southern Iowa, the corn crop could be a record.
I think the potential is there from what we've seen so far.
11 plants.
Just like the first 3 days on the east, soybeans have been in the spotlight.
Illinois came out with a record soybean yield, and we saw a very similar story in Iowa. Pod counts have been good. Yesterday, our numbers were huge in Illinois and Iowa.
This set of scouts had one field with a pod count of only 600, but that was the outlier, as they've had some pod counts in the upper 2000s.
Iowa could have a record bean crop. Corn is, it's hard to say from my perspective, has been trending a lot higher than Illinois.
It's not just the high pod counts, but the fact that there's enough moisture for a strong finish this year.
Really only seen about one field with any sort of SDS pressure. Japanese beetles have been few, so to be able to take out some of those variables really helps.
These scouts didn't get into the trouble spots of northern Iowa that battled wet weather this spring, even forcing some farmers to take prevent plant. But from what they've seen, the garden spot just may be southeast Iowa this year.
We've kind of been short of the last 3 years on rain. We've had okay crops, but we've been a little short. My best crop was 2018, and I really think I had the potential to have a better crop than 2018 right now.
All right, thanks, Tyne. And the eastern leg really had a lot to count on day 3 of Crop Tour. Check out the numbers from Illinois with some really big corn yields found, averaging 204.14 bushels to the acre, which is a new Crop Tour record. Now, when it comes to soybeans, that may be an even bigger story for the state, with 1,419.11 pods counted in a 3 by 3 foot square, up more than 11% over 2023. Now, the Western Scouts covering western Iowa, breaking it down into 3 crop districts, with District 1 averaging more than 176 bushels to the acre for corn. District 4 coming in with the best numbers of the 3 areas, 195.86 bushels to the acre. And District 7 with more than 191 bushels per acre. Scouts reporting minimal pest and weed pressure along their route, which led to big bean pod counts as well. In District 1, 1,108 in a 3 by 3 foot square. District 4 found pod counts at 1,254, a more than 11% increase from a year ago. And the numbers were even bigger in District 7, which saw 1,366 pods, a more than 16% increase over 2023.
This would be the 3rd highest pod count that we've ever gotten out of the state, behind 1998 and 2000. And really heavily potted crop. Now, along my route today, I didn't see that heavily potted crop. We saw heavy pods, don't get me wrong. Not as high as what the state average was when all said and done.
The 2024 Pro Farmer Crop Tour and Ag Day is brought to you by Pioneer, combining cutting-edge research with one of the largest local testing programs in the industry to help farmers succeed. Pioneer, what's next happens here. By Citavo Soybean Seed, distributed exclusively by BASF. And by New Leaf Symbiotics, science-led, performance-driven, and data-backed, offering biostimulants for corn, soy, cotton, and peanuts, and a revolutionary new bioinsecticide for corn rootworm.
So what will it take to bring these big crops to harvest? Could Mother Nature throw things for a loop? The latest drought monitor showing about 23% of the country is in drought. Now that's a slight uptick from last week, but check out the top soil moisture. Other than Ohio, the Midwest is looking much improved compared to last year, especially in Iowa. Subsoil moisture is also up 13% overall from 2023. USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says that should be enough to get them through the final weeks of the growing season.
Most of the meaningful rainfall should be associated with the southwestern monsoon circulation interacting with a series of weak cold fronts. What that means is that most of the rain showers should be primarily across the northwestern Corn Belt and mostly west of the Mississippi River. pretty quiet as you head into the eastern areas.
As for temperatures, Rippey says they will begin to moderate as we move through the final days of this month. And we could see temperatures back into the 80s or even the 90s, but he says heat stress should be minimal. And while the Midwest may be cooler, record heat has been an issue in the Southern Plains. Meteorologist Jack Van Meter joins us with a look ahead.
We can see this big billow of heat building from the deep south all the way through the Midwest. We have 100-degree, that century mark temperatures all the way from Dallas going all the way to Chicago as well. And that's what we're seeing on the upper level maps. We're having this heat dome build in the U.S. once again, and it looks like it's going to be hanging around for the weekend as well. Looking at those low temperatures for tomorrow morning, a little bit of relief, but honestly not all that much. Take a look at temperatures for tomorrow morning. 70 degrees to wake up to tomorrow morning. Again, still going to be quite cool for much of the country tomorrow morning. And the crop tour swinging by the Field of Dreams in Iowa. Fantastic crystal blue skies there. Very cool indeed. Oliver of Blue Line Futures checking that out as well. And when we come back, I'll have more on your forecast.
Soybeans fall apart on Thursday while livestock trend higher. We'll talk about finding harvest lows coming up next in Markets Now. And later, of course it happened on Crop Tour. Tyne and team share some of their experiences and expectations from the road in the country.
Introducing Unscripted with Tyne Morgan and Clinton Griffiths. Real, raw, and entertaining. A new episode is available every Friday on Farm Journal's YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts.
Despite another flash sale of new crop soybeans to China on Thursday, the bean market still slumped. AgDay's Michelle Rook looks into whether harvest lows can be set early with the projected record crop coming in Markets Now.
Joining us with market analysis, Darren Newsom, senior market analyst for Bar Chart. So Darren, let's talk about some of the seasonals that we see here for corn and soybeans as we have a big crop. What do we expect?
Normally, what happens this time of year is both December corn and November soybean futures continue to move lower. So, so just from a time standpoint, we usually see this sell off, last into September based on just weekly closes only. So, yeah, again, there's time for these markets to move lower. Now, there's two components to seasonal analysis. One is the degree of movement that these contracts do, by percent, of an average move. And both have already, moved well past what they tend to do, both 5 and 10 years. So, I mean, there's, from a price point of view, maybe we've seen as much seasonal damage as what we tend to see, if not more. But it's just that time. It's that time component that continues to work against the market.
So sometimes when you have a big crop or a record crop, you put in a early harvest low. Is that possible?
It is possible because, again, if we combine another study looking at price distribution over the last 5 years, we also see that December corn, November soybeans, the futures have moved into the lower percentages of their price ranges. So, this could be viewed, as a bit of an undervalued situation. So if it's undervalued, markets have moved, more than what they tend to do this time of year. And, the argument being, okay, well, we've built in worst case scenarios for both these markets. If really there's nowhere to go here, but start to improve the outlook, that could start to bring some buying in. Right now, we're not seeing it.
So will producers have to wait maybe until the next calendar year to be able to sell on some strength or some decent strength?
If they don't have anything hedged, that is a possibility. Those who have DEES hedges in place are certainly watching that DEES March because they may go ahead and they may be looking to roll out to that March, if not even all the way out to the May contract, as we see these carries continue to strengthen. And so that's going to play right into their hand.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Darren Newsom with Bar Chart. That is Markets Now. We'll have more AgDay coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
Taking a look at the drought monitor, which came out yesterday, we are seeing a couple new trends with the dryness in the country. We can especially see right around the Great Lakes area, seeing some levels of dryness start to build in just because of all the heat domes that we've seen. And unfortunately, when we zoom in to some of our problem areas in the United States, especially out in West Virginia, it does not unfortunately look like those drought conditions have gotten any better. Same deal for Montana, where they're actually seeing an exceptional drought, especially out west there. So hopefully we can get some precipitation moving in, but there is a chance of severe weather today and actually on Saturday as well. We can see two areas highlighted here. Good news is just a few severe storms and not an outbreak whatsoever. We're dealing with some brief downpours, strong winds, and actually chance of small hail. Notice I didn't use that T word there, which is great news there. Same threats are going to be on the table for Saturday, for tomorrow. And as we can see, those threats just move on a little more east. So good news there, but just stay weather aware. Let's go ahead and break down the jet stream, which is driving all these hot temperatures. We can see high pressure is building, especially right around Texas. And it makes sense because there's multitude of high temperature warnings out there, that heat warning, just because of how hot it's actually getting there. And as I put this in motion, we can't see this high pressure will just continue to throw this ridge well up into the northern part of the plains. And we do have a couple troughs trying to dig in there, and those are the main reasons why we're seeing the chance of severe weather. We have another trough moving down later in the week as well, bringing us another shot of severe weather, something to keep an eye on. San Angelo, Texas, a high of 106, low of 78 degrees. Tomahawk, 77 degrees, 59 degrees, and Rutland, 75, 53.
Hey, those smart farming innovations continue to roll out. We'll have the latest from the field next. And later, scouts have all kinds of interesting experiences on Crop Tour. Some truths from the field today in the country. Case IH is launching several new elements of technology, saying it will put the farmer user experience at the forefront. Now first, there's Case IH's new Field Ops mobile and web app. It enables farmers to connect, view, and manage operations from their phone or desktop. It's now available for download in the Apple Store and on Google Play. It's expanding API integrations to allow farmers to connect with third-party providers and manage mixed fleets. It's also introducing Connectivity Included, which removes subscription fees from its technology for qualifying machines built and purchased after October of this year. And researchers are working hard to fight back against soybean cyst nematode, and they believe they've made a major discovery. Researchers at the University of Georgia focusing on the genetics of the parasitic roundworms. They report they've been able to identify a handful of likely genes behind the pest's ability to skirt soybean genetic resistance. It's important because they say it lays the groundwork for faster testing and identification of the pests in fields, along with better resistance management using existing soybean varieties. The research funded in part with soybean farmers' checkoff dollars. Up next, we head back out on the road with Crop Tour. Some truths from the field as scouts say, of course I'm on Crop Tour in the country. So we're putting the wraps on another year of the Pro Farmer Crop Tour, and along the way, some scouts have made some memories. See if you recognize a few of these folks.
I'm on Crop Tour. Of course, I'm always soaked from dew in the morning and sweat in the afternoon.
You do look like you just went swimming.
I'm on Crop Tour. Of course, all our equipment is covered in dust.
It's Mike's fault.
I'm on Crop Tour. Of course, I fall into every field.
I'm on Crop Tour. Of course, I take orders from time.
That is not true.
I'm on Crop Tour. Of course I make the guys still find the bougie bathrooms because I refuse to go in a soybean field.
I'm on Crop Tour. Of course I tell the driver to turn after our intersection.
I'm on Crop Tour. Of course I complain about Mike Byers driving. Wait, I do that anyway.
We're on Crop Tour. Of course we eat candy bars for breakfast.
What is it? A whatchamacallit?
Whatchamacallit.
I'm on Crop Tour. Of course I eat pizza at 9 a.m.
I'm on Crop Tour. Of course I'm going to eat Casey's breakfast pizza, lunch pizza, and dinner.
Casey's Rewards, baby.
And our thanks to the entire Farm Journal and Crop Tour teams. And a reminder that this afternoon, Pro Farmer will release its national corn and soybean crop estimates. Those numbers coming out at 1:30 p.m. Central Time. Look for those to be posted on agweb.com and on AgDay's social media channels. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.